What? Who are you? What is our friendship? Rebecca said she's almost here. As if on cue, Rebecca walked into the bar and crossed the room, heading straight for the table. Sorry, I tried to get here sooner, but Gage was at the store helping me close. I imagine that's relationship code for doing something that is absolutely not helping you close your store, Allison said. Rebecca turned bright red. Possibly. Lane tried to ignore the stab of jealousy in her stomach. She had been single going on way too long now. It was getting old. It was incredibly petty to have any sort of jealousy regarding Rebecca's relationship with Gage West. It had been hard won, the obstacles between them seemingly impossible to overcome, given the fact that Gage had been at fault for an accident that had caused Rebecca serious scarring, inside and out. If anyone deserved happiness, it was Rebecca. However, her friend's happiness certainly highlighted Lane's own aloneness. Granted, to a degree it was a choice. She didn't exactly have the time or energy to devote to a relationship right now. Too bad her discontentment had nothing to do with rationality. She knew that she didn't want a man in her life at the moment, not in a romantic capacity. It was just that her bed felt very empty sometimes. And looking at Rebecca, who fairly glowed with satisfaction, it felt very, very empty indeed. Gross, Lane said, not thinking it was gross at all. In fact, she thought it was downright enviable. Do you need to order? Because Allison and I didn't wait for you. I called it in, Rebecca said, mostly because I knew neither of you would wait. Rebecca's hamburger ended up arriving before Allison's or Lane's, which seemed unfair on top of everything else. Not only had she very recently had some sex, she was also indulging in a hamburger a full 5 minutes before her friends, her single, celibate friends. When Lane's food did show up, she attacked it with gusto. She had the vague thought that she was very likely using her hamburger to help soothe some of the unsettled feelings that were left behind after witnessing Finn's confrontation with his brother, but it was no big news to her that she used food to deal with her feelings. There was a reason that she had opened a specialty food store, and it was only partly because the old business had been established but needed to change hands right around the time she had been financially able to make that step. She had always loved the Mercantile on Copper Ridge's main street, ever since she had moved to the small town on the Oregon coast when she was 17. She loved the exposed brick on the walls, the warm, homey feeling, and the easily accessible samples of bread and different types of infused olive oils. The fact that she got to work there all day almost every day was one of her favorite things about her life. So what if she had a serious emotional crutch in the form of food? She had managed to find a way to continually keep herself surrounded by said crutch. I thought you were eating dinner with Finn, Allison asked, eyeing Lane as she continued to feast on her burger. She swallowed her bite and then took a slow drink of her Diet Coke. For some reason she was hesitant to bring discussions of Finn into the group. But then, that wasn't unusual. Her friendship with Finn was specific, its own thing. It wasn't easy or completely open the way her relationships with Allison and Rebecca were. But how could it be? He was a man, and she wasn't blind to that fact. Not only that, he was older than her, and he'd been friends with her brother Mark before he was her friend. But as the years had progressed and Mark moved away, the gap had seemed to close between the two of them. He was kind of like an older brother, except a little more equal. She supposed the exact definition didn't really matter, but she still often felt the need to put up a wall between that relationship and her relationship with her girlfriends. She told them everything, but telling them everything about Finn bordered on being a violation of him, and that was what she tried to avoid. Well, I was, but he had a visitor? Please don't tell me he forgot that you were coming over and hooked up with some girl, Allison said, her nose wrinkling. Allison was always prepared to think the worst of men. She tried to keep the negativity to a minimum, and Lane knew that, but she also knew that the other woman had ample reason to have a low opinion of the species. Lane hesitated. No, he didn't do that. He wouldn't do that. You know Finn, he's a little bit nicer than that. It's just he has kind of an infusion of family right now because of his